on CLAT versus AILET and SLAT, but we shall only be discussing CLAT and AILET. We are not going to discuss SLAT along with it. So these are the two most important exams actually in the country. They cater to the best law schools, and while CLAT is more comprehensive, like it has, more colleges uh, connected to it. AILET caters to only one college, which is NLU Delhi. But NLU Delhi is one of the best law schools in the country, second best, I suppose. So, what is the difference in the various facets of these exams? Like, how are they different when it comes to the pattern? What strategy can you adopt? Is there a single strategy for both these exams if you wish to take them? Right, so everything shall be discussed today. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are you all? No CLAT analysis. Yeah. Yep. Yes. So this is the verdict of success. The success stories of BYJU'S students who have landed themselves the best schools in the country. So as you can see, right? Okay, so moving on now, CLAT versus AILET. Like I told you, we are not going to discuss CLAT today because it'll make you confused, and I'll also get confused, might not be able to keep track. So these are the two exams that students most commonly go for. So we are going to stick to these two exams. Now, CLAT versus AILET, everyone knows that for an admission into a national university, excluding National University Delhi, you need to appear for CLAT. It's a common law admission test, and it's a national level test. Everybody is familiar with the pattern and everything that goes around it. So there are many colleges, more than 20, that are related or that caters to CLAT, while NLU Delhi has a separate exam which is called AILET, All India Law Entrance Test. Okay. Now they're different in a lot of scenarios. I told you that exam pattern is different, the difficulty level is different, the criteria is more or less the same. They both are competitive exams, right? But they differ on some features, subtle, very subtle. Now let's see the differences. Like everybody knows that CLAT is a 2-hour exam, whereas AILET is 1 hour 30 minutes, which means 90 minutes. So CLAT is not online anymore, it's offline only. It used to be online, but it's not really online. It is offline. It has been conducted offline for 2 years in a row now, right? And AILET is also offline, so both are pen and paper exams. The level of entrance for CLAT is undergraduate and postgraduate, where AILET only caters to undergraduate course, which is BLLB honors. The number of questions in CLAT UG is 150 and CLAT PG is 102. AILET also has 150 questions. Now these are the exam sections. CLAT UG, we have English language, legal reasoning, current affairs, general knowledge, logical reasoning, and quantitative techniques. And in AILET we have objective types of questions, in which we have general knowledge, numerical ability, legal aptitude, and logical reasoning. Now the sections are limited to three, as I recall. You have English, general knowledge, and reasoning. Reasoning alone would constitute about 70 questions. Now everybody was assuming that the logical reasoning part is the lengthiest part. It has 70 questions. Now there won't be any legal or mathematics. Just sorry. Yes, so everybody was thinking that there won't be any legal or quantitative. Mind you, logical reasoning, 70 questions, means that the section is huge, and there are ways in which you can fit legal and mathematical questions into reasoning. The pattern that they follow for their reasoning can cater or can be used for legal and mathematics. Now, this is something that I discussed when I was discussing the changed pattern of AILET. What things that you need to remember now that they have change the pattern. In my opinion, they haven't really changed the pattern, they just changed the way it appeals to students. The exam did have legal section, and in fact it was a very difficult, lengthy legal section. So in a law entrance or in a college that is giving you a law degree, don't even think for a second that they are not going to test you upon your legal skills. If doesn't matter if they're knowledge based or analytical, doesn't matter on that, but they are going to definitely test you on your legal knowledge or legal aptitude, right? So the number of participating universities in CLAT are 22, while AILET only caters to NLU Delhi. Hi everyone. AILET has already taken place. AILET will be conducted next year, I suppose. Yeah. So this is the negative marking 0.25 for both the exams. Now in CLAT, I actually, when you compare both these exams, in my personal opinion, I find CLAT a little easier than AILET. Like there's a fixed pattern of CLAT, and there's a certain strategy to strike CLAT. Like the plan of action to attempt a paper like CLAT is pretty simple. You need to work on certain skills, and if you're good at it, you might be able to score very well in your exam, right? Along with a little bit of, not a little bit, but a consistent hard work is definitely required when it comes to an exam, especially a national level exam. But AILET, in terms of levels of difficulty, I think AILET is more difficult than CLAT. It's difficult in every way. The pattern is pretty simple. It has been the same. Like they have only changed the kind of syllabus, but it remains same. Don't worry about that. They have only changed the way the questions would be presented, but legal is going to be there, and there's a chance that quant can also come, because the way quantitative can come in the reasoning pattern that that AILET has been following is pretty straightforward. Like SLAT has asked such questions before, so never think for even a single second that legal and quant is out of the equation when it comes to AILET. They're still there, very much in abundance. They're just, there will be a different way of asking those questions. So AILET is more difficult when it comes to everything. The number of seats are less as compared to CLAT, and that is why the level of competition is extremely cutthroat. Plus the the pattern or the level of the exam is also different. The questions that they ask are never simple. They have a tendency to focus on one section particularly and then make it extra difficult, and that particular section becomes the most scoring section. So if you have, quant is not there, I know, but the pattern which they are adopting now, quant can be asked. Like I said, 70 questions from reasoning, they can fit quant if they change the style of questions. It has done before. SLAT did it somewhere around 2005, prior to 2005. If you look at older question papers of SLAT, you will be able to figure out how quad fits into AILET pattern now. But it does. If it wasn't asked this year, it might be asked next year. Okay, so it is. They haven't said that quant is completely out of this equation and we will never ask you quant. They haven't mentioned that we'll ask. They haven't mentioned that legal would be asked, but legal was pretty much there, wasn't it? So yeah, it's very good, Ujjwal. It's one of the, it's a very good college. Okay, so 70 questions. What do you think are they going to ask? Quant was not asked this year, but I am pretty sure that it will be asked next year. The level is going to be changed. Your faculty Ankur sir can make you familiar with that pattern. Okay, yeah. Now, which exam should you choose? Now this is something that students actually get confused in. So when it comes to these two most important competitive exams, do you have to choose among them, or can you prepare for them simultaneously? Can you take both of them together? Is the preparation of one hampers the preparation of other? These questions confuse the students. Plus there's a financial constraint too. Both exams are costly, like the forms of both exams are costly. Together I think they alone cost around 5 to 6 grand, which is you know a decision making thing for a lot of students. It's the best. It's a good college. NLU's top 10, 12 NLU's, the older NLU's actually, the first few national universities are pretty good. They are good. Okay, so I would suggest you go for any college that you are getting. Do not be picky or selective. Okay. Yes. So, uh, CLAT and AILET, like I told you, they are very difficult. They have cutthroat competition. There are many students who appear for the exam. But if you really think about it, the syllabus is more or less the same. The pattern of the exam is absolutely difficult. The way the questions are presented in both CLAT and AILET are completely different. But then the exam syllabus, the chunk that you have to prepare, is more or less the same. The syllabus and pattern, there are some similarities. So if you prepare simultaneously for both the colleges, it might not be a very difficult thing to do. Like there's a certain way you prepare. Obviously, the questions that you practice would be different, but the things that you have to study for both CLAT and AILET are very much the same, except some things. So you can prepare additionally, one or two extra things you can prepare, but the way and the strategy remains the same. Okay. Now, appearing in AILET, leaving CLAT is might not be a very good idea, because there are some students who think that we'll just take one exam and we'll put all our eggs in one basket. It's never a good idea when it comes to a competitive exam, be it any competitive exam, whether a college or a job. So you should never target one single exam. You should actually keep your options open, and that's how you survive. That's how you make smart decisions. Choosing AILET only and not appearing for CLAT is not wise, because AILET has limited number of seats. They're just 180, 190 seats, and the number of students appearing are too many. So if you belong to a general category, no matter how great your preparation was, it's quite probable that even with a decent score, you might not be able to get in. Okay. CLAT, the number of colleges are many, and the students are also many. But if you appear for CLAT also, you'd have more options how to cover legal portion. Just see the classes that are available. Okay, there is a subject, or there is a syllabus that I have discussed for legal portion a lot of times. It is there on the YouTube channel too. So see the syllabus, and if you can Google the topics very well, just stick to the periphery. Don't dive too much deep. You'd go, you'd get yourself confused. There's no point. Otherwise, apart from that, I would suggest you watch some free classes that are available on our BYJU'S portal, and or or you can subscribe to a course. That's how you cover legal portion. Plus, keep practicing, keep taking tests, keep solving passages from legal section. If you prefer it via offline, buy a book. Okay, AP Bharadwaj, Universal, those are good books. How many articles do we need to read? I have said this a lot of times, and I'll say this once again. You don't have to read articles. Oh, okay, you have to read articles, definitely. But you don't have to remember articles. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't have to memorize the article number and what an article says. But I would suggest that you know, remember these articles, the number and the content of these articles. there's a very there's a less chance that they might be asked, but for your own sake I would suggest that you remember article number from 12 to 30. You should know what is there in these articles, and the syllabus or the information contained in these articles is extremely important. It becomes the most relevant for exams. In fact, if they're going to ask anything from the constitution, it is going to be from these articles along with article 32. Okay. along with Article 32. Now, this alone forms the constitutional part. Rest everything is political science, which is also important. Political science can be covered from 11th, 12th NCERT books. I don't think you require more than that when it comes to Constitution of India. If you do this and you do this thoroughly, you're good to go. You would be able to solve all the passages that you face. Okay. And you will be able to solve all the questions in AILET and other exams also. So these are the portions that they actually stick to. They don't go beyond this. So that's a good way to go about it. Okay. Now, if the candidate fails to secure a good rank in AILET, he might not be able to secure admission in any other NLU because they just there's just one NLU that AILET has. But in CLAT, if you even if you get only a satisfactory score, you still might be able to get a college. So it is not always the tier 1 college that you should aim for. A lower ranking NLU is also a college. I'm not saying that it is fatal for your life or anything. Ultimately, what you yourself do in a college has more significance than the college itself. If you have been a good student and you have worked hard throughout your 5 years, you've been able to maintain a good CGPA, you've been able to work for internships by yourself, you can actually do a great job. And somebody in a tier 1 college might not be able to achieve what you are doing. So at the end of the day, it is not the college that gives you everything in life, it is your own effort, right? So for that matter, you can go to any college, but yes, a national university gives you a certain kind of exposure. It reflects on another domain when it comes to your resume. Like if you present your resume to any internship or to any firm for internship or for part-time job or anything, they would actually see which college you come from, and if it is a national university, there's a chance that you would be considered. And this is something that I am basing on my personal experience, because coming from a national university both in UG and PG, I actually got the benefit all the time. Like I was preferred over other students who did not come from national university. So this is something that happens. It's a harsh reality, but it does happen. NLU students do get preferences when it comes to internships and everything else, right? Yep. Now, appearing CLAT, opting out of AILET. Now, this is also not a very good idea, but if you want to do it because of anything, like mostly the reason is a financial constraint, because other than that there is no reason. The syllabus is pretty much the same. The only thing is the pattern of the exam, which you can cover by practicing questions. So 1 hour you practice CLAT, another hour you practice AILET, and you're good to go. If there is, however, a financial constraint that you know compels you only to choose one option because you might not be able to afford both exams together. So in that situation, I would suggest that go for CLAT, because it has more colleges. Okay, it has more colleges. There's a good chance that your form will not be wasted and you get into the national university. Okay, so there are 22 national universities. However, if you seek, like I told you, a national law university gives you a certain exposure which a regional college might not be able to provide. Every college has a different scholarship scheme. I'm not familiar with any because I didn't have to apply. You can go to their website, or you can call them, you can call their administration and inquire. They would be able to help you. I'm not sure about that. There are also other government scholarships that are available. They're available on government portals. Again, I'm not sure which ones, but if you just Google government scholarships or scholarships offered by Indian government, I'm sure there would be a lot of links that can help you. So yes, go for it. They have national and international scholarships, but there's a certain criteria that they ask. So make sure that you fulfill that criteria before you apply. Read everything about it. Okay. So yep, CLAT alone is not a bad option, but if you take AILET as a backup, it is always a good idea. if you can afford both forms together, then I would suggest that you fill both of them and not just CLAT. Again, the same saying goes for everything. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's a bad idea. It's never a good thing. Now, the syllabus, CLAT versus AILET. In CLAT, you have passages. Okay, every subject has passages. It's all about passages, passages, passages. So in English language, correct, incorrect, grammar, sentences, fill in the blanks, synonyms, antonyms, spotting grammatical error, tenses, active, passive. If I'm not wrong, this is from my own personal knowledge. Now the problem is that I'm not very well versed with English, so there might be some anomalies. Pardon me if I made a mistake. Right, in AILET, the syllabus is more or less the same. Like, you can read general knowledge inclusive of current affairs has this recent events of national international importance. So whatever is there, it's raging all over, everybody is talking about it, that becomes more important. History, art, culture, awards and honors, eminent personalities, sports, economy, science. Now this seems like a lot, but you only have to restrict yourself to what your faculties are telling you. Now last year, Abhimanyu sir and Salik sir gave you a list of topics that might be asked. Fortunately, everything that was asked was from the list that they gave. So, faculties are always aware what are the important topics that you can focus on. So, instead of just reading everything available in the compendium and opening all the websites and subscribing to all the magazines, you can actually subscribe to one single magazine and one single newspaper, do the classes that are available on the portal and YouTube, and your current affairs, GK, everything will be covered. I'm not saying that they will cover each and every single thing. They might leave out a certain passage, but if anything is left out, trust me, it is going to be extremely far-fetched and nobody knows the answer of it. How is Lloyd College in Greater Noida? I don't want to comment because I'm not really familiar with that college. But I do know that they have a good PR team and they did good advertisements. See, the college speaks for itself. You don't need advertisements and fancy ads and fancy brochures and English speaking counselors to attract students and tell you how good your college is. The college, everything speaks for itself. So before you decide whether or not a college is good, there is a certain there's a certain there are certain things that you need to consider. See how active their internship and placement cell is. How good are they at exposing their students? Do they really work hard in securing internships to their students? Because national universities do that. They have extremely active internship and placement cells which work really hard to make sure that their students are interning and getting placed. Right. So if any other college is doing that, I would rate that college a good college. How good their moot team is. Is it presenting or is it representing its college nationally and internationally? How active they are in their research skills? How do they encourage their students to write papers, do research works, etc.? So this is how actively does a college participate when it comes to a student's curriculum, academic and his professional growth, which develops through internships. So if a college is doing all that, it is a good college, not otherwise. So examine the college on these parameters. You don't need me. I have not studied in each and every college of the country. So you look at this, see their website. There are people that the critics are there everywhere in this world, everywhere in the world, right? So you figure out what people are saying about the college. Like, you can gain a practical experience from a student who's actually studied in the college. So he must have written somewhere something. Read that. You can make that decision yourself. Okay. Most important books for CLAT. For GK, refer to CLAT Ignite and any newspaper. And for legal, I don't think there's a book that caters to legal. But for questions, you can refer to AP Bharadwaj and Universal. Somebody was telling me that there are too many wrong answers in AP Bharadwaj. So, uh, Take care of that. Okay. Yes, eminent personality, sports economy, science. Like I said, pay attention to what your faculty is telling you. Just subscribe to one magazine, which is CLAT Ignite. That magazine is created only for you, the students preparing for law entrance exam. So it, you know, since it is prepared keeping you in mind, it is the most relevant source for GK current affairs available right now in the market. You complemented it one, sorry, you complement it with one newspaper and you're through. That's it. That's all you need. Now in AILET, however, the GK is a little tricky. You need to know about the international events in a deeper sense, like you need to know everything that is happening. The UN bodies become important. The UN bodies, as in, you know, the primary UN body, especially if they were in news. So, what is who is their secretary or chairman or general, whatever post that they have? Where is their headquarter? When was it constituted? Was it a part of any other body? Is there any subsidiary that it has created? So this becomes relevant mostly if it is in the news. Even if it is not in the news, I would suggest that you go through or go over the primary bodies of UN. Now, the significant advancements in the field of sports environment agreements and geopolitics are important when it comes to AILET. Current affairs, obviously, the eminent personalities, again, if they have been in news, sports, awards, and honors. Now, sports may seem like an endless topics, but I would suggest that you read sports only when there is a very, very important award being given to somebody. Not otherwise. Not otherwise. Okay. In legal reasoning, CLAT, you have legal magazines. This is your syllabus in the nutshell. So, legal maxims, Indian Constitution, Indian Supreme Court judgments, important acts and amendments of the legislature, legal GK, current affairs. This is not it. It is not just Indian Constitution. You have torts along with this. You have torts, you have criminal law, and you have contract also. This is also there. Okay, so in CLAT, the legal reasoning syllabus is a little more. So torts, contracts, and crime form an important aspect of CLAT, right? They have not focused on torts for 2 years now, so there's a very high possibility that this year's legal reasoning will have more tort and criminal rather than constitution and contract. So this is something that you can, you know, uh, keep in mind. Now, legal reasoning in AILET has a similar syllabus, like exactly the same. You're taking a drop in AILET, but you have given, yeah, of course. If you have taken MHCT, I think it's going to be conducted tomorrow. Tomorrow you have MHCT, right? It's a good idea. Good. MHCT also has some really good colleges. Now, the logical reasoning contains relationships, analogies, logical sequences, syllogism, statement and assumption, cause and effect, inferences, premise and conclusion. In AILET, they have series, blood relations, directions, critical reasoning. Now, like I told you, critical reasoning is a very hefty topic, and critical reasoning may contain legal and quant. There's a certain way critical has legal reasoning, obviously, and they have quant also. Like they might give quant also. Now, how does quant fit in the critical reasoning section is something that you need to see from SLAT question papers. You will be able to figure out how does quant fit into this equation or factor into this equation of critical reasoning. But critical reasoning in itself contains both legal and quantitative. The pattern changes, but they can be very well asked. So don't rule them out altogether. Okay. This is quantitative ability, but you don't have quant in AILET anymore. So let's cancel this. Okay. Yep. Moving on, legal aptitude, CLAT and AILET. The section is worth 40 marks in CLAT and about 30-35 marks in AILET. The two divide into two categories, legal reasoning and legal general knowledge. CLAT is a little haphazard if you ask me. Like they mostly dominate the static portion of the GK. They don't really stick to current affairs. They haven't done it for 2 years, but they might do it again. CLAT is very, very unpredictable. Despite the fact that they, stick to current affairs, it is very probable that they would stick to a static portion of it. Like it will be a mix of GK, legal GK, a current event that has happened, along with a static concept relating to the law that it happened in. But AILET has an even division. CLAT, legal reasoning, is very very important because it is a tiebreaker section, right? And it is the most lengthy. Always remember, whenever, whichever exam that you are taking, you have to remember certain things. There are certain things for to remember in both CLAT and AILET. The principle is the most dominant. The principle that is given both in CLAT, if it is given in the form of passages, or it is given in AILET, wherein you just have the principle. सेफ कोर्स नहीं हो सकता है श्रेया. If there cannot be a safe course, you have to consider the possibility of not getting in, and that is why you need to play safe. So despite the fact that you are only aspiring for NLU Delhi, I would still suggest that you fill out other forms also. You fill out MHCET also, you fill out CLAT also, you opt for SLAT, and you opt also for LSAT. So fill out all the forms. Don't. It's good that you have aspirations and that you have a dream college, but not all dreams come true. For all you know, you might not be able to get into AILET, but you might be able to get into NALSA or NLS Bangalore. But if you are really determined, you need to work hard a certain way. Make sure that you're doing really good with your AILET preparation, all the while you're practicing your CLAT questions. So if you do that simultaneously, you'll be playing safe. So do that. Okay. Yeah. Now you need to remember that principle is the king. You cannot apply any form of outside knowledge, even if you have a lot of it. You have been taught law. I'm teaching you law. So Rajit sir is teaching you law. We are doing it both on the YouTube platform and on our legal port on our BYJU'S portal. But we only give you the legal understanding so that it is easier for you to decipher the principle. It is not so that you can solve the questions without taking help of the principle. You cannot do that. Okay. In CLAT, you have to read the passage. You cannot get away without reading the passage. You have to stick to what is there in the passage. If it is the principle, or if it is a certain offense or a tort that they're talking about, you have to stick to what is written in the passage. If they have mentioned a defense, maybe then you apply it, otherwise not. Even if you see in a hypothetical situation that the circumstance clearly calls for a mistake of fact, and coincidentally it is given in the options also, but despite that you cannot opt for that option because it is not given in the passage, nor is it given in the principle, right? So principle is the king. Do not use any outside knowledge. Legal reasoning is not to test you on your knowledge of law. It is to test your ability of and of critical and analytical reasoning. How well you can you decipher the principle and the passage and then apply it to the hypothetical situation. That's what they're testing you upon. So stick to that skill. Okay. The legal knowledge will only help you decipher it in lesser time than the other students. That's just it. The best way to prepare for legal reasoning is to repeatedly practice AILET and CLAT past papers. CLAT past papers are sort of redundant, but they can be a very good practice for other exams. So if you can get your hands on NLS, NASAR, NUJS and NLUJ exam back when there was no CLAT, that would be a very good thing to do. So, I think CLAT started somewhere around what, 2008, right? 2007 or 8. So before 2007 or 8, how these colleges still had entrance exam. So what pattern did they follow? What were their questions? What were their questions? If you can get your hands on those question papers, it can be very valuable to you. It can serve as a valuable repository, and you can understand the questions and you'll understand how these colleges think. So do that. Okay. Legal reasoning is primarily based on tort, contract, criminal, and constitution. Some miscellaneous topics which rarely show up. In CLAT, the miscellaneous that generally shows up is family law for 2 years now. So family law, just stick to marriage and divorce and you're good to go. Similar goes for AILET also. Just stick to marriage and divorce. They're not going to ask anything. They do, stick themselves, or they do get some extract from legal current also, which means that they might pick a random topic from a magazine or a newspaper, but that random topic, mind you, is not going to be very difficult. So if you don't face a conventional passage in CLAT, you don't have to be scared. The new passage will be relatively easy. So if you can just read it patiently, not panic over it, and solve the questions, you might just be able to solve all of them. Similar goes for AILET also. AILET, although, will stick to these conventional laws only, because you cannot create a principle out from nowhere, right? So AILET, they would stick to the tort, contract, criminal, constitution, but the principle is not just a one-liner, two-liner principle. It is a pretty lengthy principle, and the questions are even lengthier. So in legal reasoning, I find AILET a little more difficult than CLAT. Legal GK is the second part of legal aptitude. Legal GK questions are primarily based on constitution, Latin, not constitutional law, basically political science. Legal GK is, concentrated towards political science. Latin legal maxims, current legal knowledge, maybe a bit of international political affairs. This is not a tough section. BYJU'S material can take care of the relevant laws, phrases, etc. For current affairs, static GK, you may refer to CLAT Ignite, which is again a very, very good source for GK. Note for AILET, it is very important. Legal aptitude questions are a little more tricky than AILET, the CLAT. So they're lengthier and they're considerably more detailed vis-a-vis CLAT. If you look at the question paper of AILET 2022, it was extremely lengthy. Despite the fact that it was only a principal fact-based question, it was very lengthy. And the length often, strikes panic into a student. So don't get panicked. Just be a little patient. Try to be patient when you're reading it, and you can do good. Okay. So practice as many questions from AILET as you can. Small, lengthy, not small, whatever questions you can get your hands on for AILET. Practice them and you will do a very good job in AILET. In AILET, you cannot ignore smaller sections, for example, English, and you cannot completely ignore the critical reasoning part, which is now an important part of reasoning AILET. Critical reasoning is a very, very tricky area. They can be extremely unpredictable when it comes to critical reasoning. Legal forms a significant part of critical reasoning. I'm emphasizing again that there is a certain way quantitative or mathematics can be introduced or can be asked in critical reasoning questions. There's a certain pattern that can be followed. That pattern has been followed in SLAT a number of times. So do not rule out anything. When you are preparing, prepare everything. I took an analysis session of AILET's changed pattern. Do look at it. We'll again conduct a session for AILET and the questions that can come. How does critical reasoning change the game altogether? How is it not a good idea to completely leave mathematics? This is something that you should know, so I would consider taking the session based on demand, right? So I hope it is clear. One final piece of advice, uh, since the exam is right around the corner, CLAT, AILET still has a little time. How many legal maxims? One or two, that's it. And this one or two maxims can be covered by one single session. I've taken two, so you just take those two sessions. The classes that I take, I often discuss maxims, so you stick to those classes and that's it. Nothing is going to be asked beyond that, and if it is, I would suggest just leave the question. One two, you know reading 1000 maxims for 1 mark or 2 marks is not as cost efficient. So if the maxims fall from within your syllabus or within your preparatory material, very good. If it doesn't, just leave it. Not life threatening. It's It's okay to leave questions. Right. So this is my final piece of advice for today. You get caught up in the rush of things during this time because there is too much pressure. Students or your peers or your seniors, your parents, school, they create, a certain pressure in your head. Now there's another pressure to balance your boards and other law entrance exams which might be there. So the stress is a very, very common thing. Sometimes you feel lonely, sometimes you're disillusioned that you might not be able to qualify. You completely confirm that won't be able to qualify, and that decreases your score. Your mock score starts getting affected, which depresses you even further. So don't worry about it. It is after all still an exam, and you are just a child, and everybody who is taking the exam is from your age, from your background, from the same, you know it comes from the same place where you are coming from. Same depression, same stress, same tenacity, everything is exactly the same. So what you are going through is something that is faced by most of the students. Don't beat yourself up and feel that you're all alone. You can talk to somebody in that situation. You can talk to your faculties. You can talk to a trusted adult, which might be your mom or dad or anyone you feel close to. Just talk about it. If you're tensed, if you're depressed, talk to somebody about it. You'll feel much, much better. If you wish to take a small break, there's no harm doing that either. Talk to somebody, take a small break, do something good in your break, and then start again with the same rush and excitement, right? And after this, if you remain consistent, try to encourage yourself that I am going to do good, I am going to do whatever I can. That should do the job. Okay, and there's a reason why our Bhagavad Gita are emphasizing on the karma instead of the result, because there's no point pondering what the result might be. You can never predict the result, never. No matter how hard you work, what the result is going to be something out of your hands. So I know it is easy for me to say, it is difficult for you to follow. But if you worry about something that is not in your hands, it's actually wasting a lot of time. So why don't you just focus on the process of preparation? Just practice and study, attend classes, and that's it. Don't do anything else. If you're facing problems in your scores, in your preparation, reach out to us, we'll help you. And that's it. Don't worry about what you don't know and what we don't know. We don't know what your result is going to be. You don't know what your result is going to be. So let's not discuss that. Let's not focus on that. Let's focus on what is happening right now. Right now, you need to prepare yourself. You need to make sure that you have syllabus, notes, material ready for revision, and that's it. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. I hope you could connect with me in the session, and such sessions are conducted on a regular basis. I'm taking them almost every day for your sake, for your encouragement, and for your, they work as Gatorades or energy boosters. So don't miss them. Make sure that you are in those sessions, even if they are conducted at 11 a.m. Like, comment, and share the session. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and click on that bell icon, which would give you an idea of what sessions are being conducted on our portal. Oh yes, you'll get a huge advantage. But like I told you, the number of seats are less. So even the seats for SCs and STs and all the the seats that are reserved are also less. So if a student is, you know is coming from a reserved background but has worked hard enough and able to secure a good seat, there's a high chance that you might be able to not qualify. So make sure that you're working hard despite the fact that you come from a reserved category, because the number of seats are very, very less. Okay, so everybody would be fighting for that. When are you going to take legal aptitude? Very soon, very soon. Right, thank you so much, guys. That's it for today. I shall see you again tomorrow. Till then, everybody take care. Bye bye. Keep yourself lively and enthusiastic about your exams, and I shall see you tomorrow.